But there's another side of this that I should be fair and mention, which is that there are a lot of people who have convinced themselves that it's not even a question of economic growth or unemployment or things like that. There are people that have convinced themselves that AI is going to kill all of us.
Well, yeah.
That it's literally going to kill all of us.
That's what I wanted to end on here, because I want to respect your time here. But yes, the last topic is, and I've talked with some people, they're familiar, they're not Luddites, in other words. They understand in general, innovation helps, and we're not making them. Sure. Okay. Fine. Fair enough. They're not worried that, yes, people are going to be thrown out of work. Their concern is, and I'll grab some of the more sophisticated ones. And I've even seen people saying, it's not like the Terminator. We're not worried about the machines like turning evil and hunting us down. Like, no, the problem is, they say, if these things, once they get to be superhuman and they like start refining themselves, so like they turn their faculties inward to improve their own intelligence, and it's just this runaway process, they're going to so far outstrip us that we're going to be, it's not that they're going to care one way or the other about us, but they might decide to use all the molecules on Earth to build copies of themselves, or to go, take over other galaxies, that kind of thing. And we will just be like field mice to them. And that's not maybe a good spot we want to be in.
Yeah, I've done thought experiments like this myself. And one should keep in mind that fundamentally, worrying about this is kind of silly and misguided. And I'll explain why. So there's the first question, which is, what does superhuman mean? Take a look around you. There are superhuman things all around you all the time. Your car has a superhuman ability to run or to move, right? You cannot run or jog at 80 miles an hour down the highway for 4 hours, right? And your car can, without breaking a sweat or without caring. You cannot check millions and millions of tax returns or file them or manipulate them or what have you. And the computers at the IRS can. You cannot predict the weather by doing vast, vast numbers of calculations on all of the world's weather data. And even if you had 5,000 people working on it, it wouldn't be possible. The computers being used to do weather prediction are deeply superhuman. We even have things like superhuman chess machines and superhuman Go machines and things like that. Are you worried about these devices? Do you lie awake at night worried that you are obsolete because your car is capable of moving faster than you can? And
I am kind of worried about the IRS ones, but that's not really what
I worry about the IRS becoming deeply superhuman. So the argument that then gets made by people on this sort of thing is, this is very different, because these are going to be systems that are capable of doing almost anything that a human being can do, only vastly better. But why would we build them so that they have an independent volition to destroy us? And the argument that you will then get back from certain people is, it's not that we would build them that way, but that they would develop it mysteriously and magically on their own. And they would deceive us into not realizing they had developed this capability, or we wouldn't understand that they had there are all sorts of weird arguments that can be made. But they all come down to the notion that the AIs we build will have their own volition and own goals. And those goals will be radically incompatible with human goals, and that they will then kill us. And why would we build machines like that? And you can imagine doing it, right? You can also imagine setting off nuclear weapons over the entire surface of the earth and sterilizing all life. We're capable of doing it, right? Would anyone do it? Not so much. And if you tried to do it, other people would stop you, right? It turns out that single individuals can't build entire nuclear arsenals and decide to set them off. And then our societies build large numbers of checks and balances that prevent people who are crazy from being able to independently to decide to do particularly awful things. And so you see arguments often from the doomer faction and I'm going to bluntly say these people are crazy. They're not necessarily literally insane in the sense of having no sense of like the world they're living in. They're not hallucinatory, but they're de facto crazy. And like there's an essay by Eliezer Yudkowsky where he has proposed that if we can't stop AI research in foreign countries, we should do aerial bombardment of their data centers. This goes a little bit past what's reasonable. But the argument that these people make often is, well, once we build these systems and they start self-improving, by the next morning, they will be billions of times more intelligent than us and will have no control. And it's not even possible, right? It's not even something that could happen in principle. And over the longer term, they say things like, well, if you have AI systems, you will have AI militaries and you'll have AIs that are capable of designing horrible chemical weapons and diseases and what have you. And we're capable these days already of doing many of those things. And yet we haven't all died. And why is that? Because we have checks and balances of power, and we have mechanisms that prevent people from deciding to just go out and do terrible things. Over the long term, if we do this correctly, yes, we will have governments or even possibly crazy individuals able to use AIs to design new diseases. And we'll also have the ability to design cures for diseases so quickly and defenses against new diseases so quickly that it won't make any difference. It won't be something that's salient. Just as, no one, if you had the only machine gun in ancient Rome and everyone else was armed with spears, it would probably give you a great deal of power, and it would be a thing that people around you should be worried about. But if there are millions of machine guns in the world, the odds that you're going to be able to take over an entire country with one of them are pretty low. I am not worried that the development of this technology is going to either result in all life being wiped out or the human race suddenly vanishing in as the AIs decide to turn the entire planet into paper clips. Paper clips is a common example people use in these discussions. It's an incoherent position. And if you look at the details of the arguments that are made about this, they are both at a high level and in detail, almost all riddled with errors. There's no particular reason to worry about it. There is reason to worry, however, that if we decide to overregulate the technology early in its existence, that we could end up in a situation where only the worst people have access to AI and use it for terrible things. That is legitimately a thing that could happen, right? If we decide that we are so worried about developing AI that we're going to leave it only in the hands of sociopathic dictators and dictatorial regimes, then I can guarantee, yes, there will be bad results because people will not be able to use the technology for good, and people who want to use it for ill will have no check on their bad behavior.
The only thing that can stop a bad guy with super AI is a good guy with super AI. Kind of.
Well, I mean, what stops bad guys with armies?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
what stopped Vladimir Putin from rolling over Ukraine, right?
The gun control debates that, if you make guns criminal and only criminals have guns, sort of thing,
or police forces, but I repeat myself. Anyway, that was not nice of me. Anyway, but generally speaking, I mean, that's sort of a crude way of thinking of it, but it's not wrong, right? Mm-hmm. The societies develop ways of coping with these things over time. We develop ways of adjusting to stuff. We build cars, and it turns out that the glass in the cars is really dangerous, and then we invent safety. As people develop new technologies, they react to the technologies, they figure out what the pluses and minuses of the technologies are, and they improve them with time. The way that we will deal with the negatives of AI, and there will be negatives, right? Because there has been no technology developed in human history that hasn't had negatives. Everything's been an enormous net positive. But the same knife that you can use to help cook your dinner can be used to stab you in the gut, right? And do we decide that we don't want to have knives? No, because they're too useful and the odds of something bad happening are relatively low, but there are bad things, right? The way we adjust as we develop new technologies to the bad things is by letting large numbers of people work on the problem, figure out ways to improve the situation, to make things safer, to develop countermeasures for negative uses of things, etc. And one of the problems with the doomer faction is that they have this very, very silly view of how the world works, where they think that they can sit on their butts and think about how to make perfect AI or how we could develop AI in their minds more safely. And that eventually, if only smart enough people think for long enough periods of time, they will come up with the perfect way to do this. It's a sort of planning fallacy on steroids. It's not a 5-year plan from the Soviet Union. It's like, some 500-year plan, which makes it exponentially worse. There's the way that we will cope with negatives is by engaging with them, which is the way we've coped with negatives of every previous technology. And it's the way that we will cope with the negative consequences of every future technology. And we still want the technologies. We still want the future technologies. But you cannot just have some group of bureaucrats or anointed smart people sit in the corner and predict every possible bad consequence and every possible way to counter it and it doesn't work. Right? That's not the way anything has ever worked.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Murphy. Thanks for listening to this clip from the Infi podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, please consider subscribing and share this video with others. We've got new episodes dropping every Friday with more insightful discussions. Stay tuned.